Follow the Nigerian elections, particularly from 1999, we've seen a dwindling crop of people coming out to vote. Voter party increases per elections. In 1999, that was like one of the best after the 93 elections as to the number of persons that came out to vote. We had about 45% of registered voters in Nigeria at that time come out to vote. But let's talk at the last election that we had, the Anambra election. There was also an increase in our voting strength because Charles Soludo became governor at the time with less than 10% of people in Anambra voting him. But at the last election, we had upwards up to 15% of people coming out to vote, which is still purely very poor. If you have 100%, getting voter cards, and at the end of the day, you have only 50% of that population voting, can we really say that the majority are the ones choosing the leaders? So what we are seeing is that a lot of Nigerians now are now using the voter card as a means of identification. For those who may not be able to afford the international passport or get a driver's license, the next ready available identification tool is the
PVC.
The PVC. We are still compiling the data now, and I'm sure at the end of the day we'll get to know the data. But from what INEC told us, we had 1.6 registered voters in the FCT.
That's 1.6 million.
1.6 million, right? 1.6 million. So we would have been expecting, let's even say 1 million people come out to vote. So if we have, at the end of the day, we have 200,000, which I'm not even sure that we'll be able to have up to 200,000. It's still very low compared to the number of people. So a lot of persons get the voter card as a means of identification. Let me just get it so that in case I'm traveling. I remember the last time I was going to Benue State, I was stopped at a point and they said, let's see, I showed them my work ID card. They said, do you have a voter card? Do you have? So I showed. So people understand that these things can be used as means of identification, which is very sad. I sent videos earlier of young persons playing football. Right. So you could see them. There are a lot of persons just doing their business, sleeping at home. People are not really interested. A lot of persons, maybe apart from this particular voting point, voting unit O2 in Garaki where Jesalo voted. I don't know what went wrong for mobilization to have that number of people come out to vote. Or maybe they know that because the big man is voting, something may drop at the end of the day, which which could be a mobilization factor. So people, most Nigerians now need to be mobilized to come to vote, right? Which is sad for our democracy.
So you don't think in any way the lack of awareness, people being aware that such a thing is happening? Because honestly, I have not seen a trend on social media. We've seen talks here and there. We're talking just a few pockets of people talking about this, but largely the focus was on the protests. And after the protests, FCT elections comes and nobody is really shouting about it.
I think that the trend that we've studied is that interest tends to drop when it is off-season elections and by-elections. People are not as interested in those elections like the presidential elections that we'll be having. So when it is a presidential election, a lot of persons are interested in who becomes the president of Nigeria. And that's a sad trend because for instance, AMAC as an example is the third largest local government in Nigeria. I'm not using local council now. We are classifying FCT as a state. Let's call it a local government. It's the third richest. After Lagos Island, Obi-Opo local government. AMAC is the third. It gets upward of 1.3 billion, 1.2 billion naira every month from FAC allowance. So this can fund a state. And persons are not interested in a local council that gets that much money. It just speaks to how we pile a lot of pressure on the center. A lot of Nigerians think the center 50. The last budget we have 53 point something trillion. And Nigerians are saying, they say this is the money. A lot of NGOs focus on looking at which departments is not using what they are meant to use for. But we forget about this, that there's a local council area in Abuja that gets 1.3 billion every month. And do the calculation and this is just from FAC. We've not talked about the IGR. Of course, AMAC has a lot of IGR because a lot of companies operate from here. So it's bigger than what some states used to get before, right? So it's sad that we always look at the center and we forget to hold them accountable because they are not part of the process. You can't hold them accountable. There are many persons who are residents in AMAC who do not even know the name of the chairman and are not interested. And they think it doesn't affect you because you also do not feel their impact. You know, so you could also escape our citizens, because the citizens do not really feel the impact of these local council areas. A friend of mine who works with the Honorable Chairman was just sending me videos yesterday. Was saying, see, we've done 23 inner roads, we've done this, we've done that, we should be re-elected. I'm like, tell it to the people.
Well, the question is, are the people seeing it? Because there's no how you see new roads in your streets. You see your markets working well. You see the primary health care centers booming as it should, and you would say, you wouldn't ask who is doing this. So can we even say that the impacts of this chairman are not really felt in the grassroots? That is why maybe they are not interested in this process.
Right. Those are questions that we could say yes, because at the end of the day, if you look at the project, I was asking an essay to the chairman one day. He came on my show, and I asked because I'm very interested in housing and transportation, because I know how impactful those could be to young persons and people who are just starting off life afresh in Abuja. And I asked, he said, the housing estate, the chairman is partnering with the Renewed Hope in this Kasana housing estate. I said, so with the resources that comes, can the chairman, you know, couldn't you, administration, have thought about good intervention in housing for, you know, so those are projects that will get to the people at the end of the day. Transportation. What are you doing about transportation? It's becoming skyrocketing. And can the local council do something about it? You know, so yes, they've done. In fairness, those projects he mentioned are projects that are on ground. I've gone to a place in Gwarimpa and saw a road the chairman was doing. Personally, I covered that road, so I know that there are projects here and there that he's doing, but at what cost at the end of the day?
Well, that's interesting. Just before you jump off now, Bob, let's talk about demographics, right? No matter what the turnout is going to be at the end of the day, low, medium, or high, what demographic have you observed it's more visible? Younger people, the youth, or the elderly?
I think the younger persons, I'll say between ages 20 to maybe 45. Those are the large numbers of people I've seen and the people I've spoken to. I've not really seen a lot of elderly people where I've gone out to vote. I've not really seen them. I really looked out for them, and I'm not also really seeing a lot of first-time voters. So these are voters that may have been already mobilized, because one of my friends was telling me that they have the list. Remember, INEC releases the list of persons who are to vote in a polling unit, and they have these persons and they know these persons. All right, so and the party has wards, so they are able to mobilize their members and track these are the persons that are voting in this particular place. So basically, this election seems to take a lot of incentive to come out and vote, because I think the messaging from the candidates did not really penetrate as much into the people. For instance, if you looked at the 2023 general election, the messaging of Peter Obi, for instance, was very deep into the people. A lot of persons connected to that message, and they could on their own, you know, leave their businesses, come out regardless, to come out and vote. But the messaging of the people who are going for the council chairman, I think, has not really connected to the people, because most of the people are not really people that are grassrooted, you know, and it also takes a lot of effort to be grassrooted in a metropolitan center. Remember, these are not our villages that we know everybody. So if it was contesting, we say, who is that person? They say, it's the uncle, auntie. So people are easily related. You know, most of the persons that are going, for instance, the SDP candidate in Amak, he's not even, he's from the southeast. You know, he's from the southeast. One of the person contesting for ADC is from Benue. You know, the person so you could see all of those places playing a factor in the metropolitan center. So people, and we know the role that religion, tribalism, and ethnicity still plays in our politics. We may want to say it does not matter, but people don't really feel as connected as to this council chairman as when it has to do with the presidency or the governorship. So I think those are the reasons why we are seeing this pocket.
I really want to feel that basically people have not heard them speak. Yeah, when you're not able to convince people with your words, when you're just about going to play music, you know, having boys to follow you in some kind of, you know, big cars or buses, and that is what you call campaign. In this part of the world, we don't even understand what campaign is. You should be able to come out and say, I will do this, I have done this, and you should campaign with what you have done.
Are you saying what we're having essentially is jamboree?
Exactly, that's what we're having.
Yeah, more like concerts.
More like concerts.
We invite
street plays, entertainment. That's what we're having, and that's what we call campaigns. But
so you say you went for a campaign today. What did you hear? We danced.
What did you do?
We followed the car.
From one place to another.
At the end of the day, we got transportation to go home.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're going to let you off now. We would like to say a big thank you to you.
Thank you
for coming to share updates with us regarding the area council election happening now in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria's, of course, capital, CC. Our special coverage continues here, of course, all the way. Stay with us, everyone. All right, so thank you, everyone, for staying with us. We understand that there's a lot happening on the field right now, and in the beat, one of our correspondents who is already here with us in the studio getting set up will just, again, share some insight with us about what she has observed on the field as part of our reporting and special coverage of the FCT council or area council election. Quite a number of insights Mbong had shared with us a while ago when he talked about, for example, the apathy factor and the steady decline we've seen since, well, let's say 2003, because 1999 was more like the entry point for us. So at that point in time, we didn't have much basis for comparison, given that we're just returning or coming back from the military days, the dark days, as some persons have come to refer to it. But by 2003 and all the way down to 2023, we've now seen that over those election cycles, every other 4 years, it has been a steady decline. And experts now say that things like, well, if you like, disenfranchisement, for example, people not be able to access their voter cards for a number of reasons. There are people who have moved from one area to another. There are those who desire to move their PVCs from one unit to another. Right? It has been a challenge. In fact, there are even some big politicians, I mean big in quotes now, who are not able to vote for no fault of theirs just because there are systemic challenges that have prevented them from doing that. So these are issues we have to look at as we approach 2027. And perhaps that was the reason our first guest this morning, James Ugochukwu, did talk about how that if we really want to be committed to the process of continuous voter registration exercise, it must be continuous in the practical sense of the word, so that there's no pause or you don't have some breaks in between. It's got to be continuous round the clock, if you like, around the cycle. Because like you also highlighted, if we live in an era where you can walk into your bank, just apply for your ATM card and wait to pick it up. I mean, who says you can't do the same with the PVC, of course, which again is midwifed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. So much to talk about in this regard. But we're joined by one of our correspondents who have been deployed to the fields today to help us with this special coverage, Sadia Yakubu. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Sadia.
Good to see you too.
All right, let's talk about your own observation. I mean, you joined us virtually a while ago when you reported from your own polling units. What has happened since the last time we spoke with you?
Still the same. We had good turnout from the polling units where I spoke with you from. I think I went to 2 polling units. Number 1 was Gaba, and then the other one was Tokuno polling unit. That's the polling unit for the aspirants of the chairman of Buhari Area Council. So that's a good number out there. And then the security agencies were on ground. We were fully on ground because the FCT command commissioner police was there too.
Okay. That was in Buhari?
Process, yes, in Buhari. He came down there, and I'm very sure the second video would soon, visit. So where he came and he was asking the voters if anybody has intimidated them to come and vote. Is there anything like vote buying or any form of violence? And it was just no. So to me, it was commendable for the Buhari access. But then other polling units you go, I couldn't capture that because of one thing or the other. You see them with a dry polling unit, just the ad hoc staff and their materials, electoral materials.
No voters.
No voters at all. So the other part, we have.
What part was this?
Yeah.
What precise part?
Along Gwarimpa axis. Yes, we have very, very dry places there. And then the materials, electoral materials for the Sagwari polling units under Buhari again. The electoral materials arrived around 7:20 a.m. We already had officials on ground.
At that time?
At that time, yeah. But then voters weren't on ground. So 1 or 2.
Quite interesting.
So I want to ask the first polling unit, which you mentioned, the Buhari polling units, we see more of nursing mothers, women, and then youths. What do you think can be the cause of this?
And the men actually if you're talking about election, talking about politics in Nigeria, I think we have to give it up to women.
Okay.
The whole polling unit I went to, women were much. Even when you called me video call, I'm not sure if it's very clear, but you could see a lot of women out there. Politicians, they prefer going to women to say, oh, please come out and vote, because they believe women are trustworthy. And then we have, what's it called? election at heart. If we say we are coming to vote for this person, we are going to vote. If we say we are not coming out, we are not coming out.
So women are more emotionally attached, in other words,
than men. We have some men, but then women are.
It was more of women, apparently, yes, from the the footage you see on the screen. We'd like to say a big thank you to Sadia Yakubu, who would also be part of, be contributing to our news bulletin going forward. Incidentally, we continue our special coverage here for you today, but we'll also take out time to talk about vote buying, because that in itself is quite a concern in, if you like, election value chain, given that if people are not voting out of patriotism, their decision to vote or their motivation for voting is not organic, it can put a question mark, in a manner of speaking, on the process itself. So patriotism has to be encouraged, and the system must be seen to be free, fair, transparent, as well as credible. You see, that's one challenge that a lot of persons have highlighted over time. The issue of, if you like, inducement, as some politicians have come to call it, because of the money factor in our electionary. And that is something we want to talk about quite extensively after this break. Please do stay with us. Before we take a break from our live studios, from where we are covering, especially these, local elections today, let's talk about the issue of inducements, which often comes in form of vote buying. You know, one side there was a mantra of one man, one vote, yes, and that became controversial. But then it had already been entrenched because people were becoming more aware at that level, at that point. This was further popularized by former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, even though people later accused him of not practicing what he preached, whatever that means. But whether you like it or not, ideally, I mean, in an ideal situation, it's got to be one man, one vote. It's not a gender-specific mantra. It's to say that Priscilla cannot vote more than once. She has one PVC, she's got to vote only once. And if he has one PVC, he must vote once. However, we now find politicians getting smart, cutting corners, breaking all the rules. Where they can't break the rules, they bend them, and all of that. Shamefully, we got to a point, I mean, that was probably the climax of it all, where it was not a matter of votes buying, moving from 1,000 to 3,000 to 5,000. At some point, we heard that the last election, in some places in this country, in our very lifetime, our votes sold for as much as 20, or in some cases, 10,000. So if you have an electoral process that is transactional on a level, on whatever scale, is that not already something that we should be all bothered about?
Well, it is, really it is, because we don't even understand what is right and what is wrong again in our society. Someone will think, oh, as long as the person is coming to vote for himself, he's using his tongue to print. Right. I mean, he has a free will. He's the one that accepted the money. So why should they call it wrong?
It's his choice.
It's his choice. But we're not voting, we're not just looking for numbers.
Right.
We're looking for a person that is able to serve. A person that will bring the development, that is capable to bring development we want to see. A person that will help you take your life from point A to point B, because whether we like it or not, it depends largely on our leader. Your success in life depends, the leadership you have, or the leadership, your leaders you choose, have a way of affecting your success.
Your personal success.
Your personal success. If not anything, it should affect the way you go through it. Sometimes there's an easy route, but because, I mean, all the roads are blocked, because you have a wrong person, you have to take the more difficult route to achieve what you want to achieve. So every Nigerian should know that it's not about getting the number of votes. When you go to the polling units to cast your votes, you are going there with intention, with being convinced. It starts from your conviction, and your conviction is not based on what someone says to you. No, based on what you know, what you perceive, what you have seen, the patterns you have seen, because patterns do not lie. Right. It's not just about getting somebody now because you feel or someone says he's good. No, what have you seen? What's the track record of this person? At the end of the day, this is who you will put in power, and that person somehow controls you one way or the other. So we need to be very sensitive about choosing leaders. Vote buying should not come to a place where it becomes a norm and we say it's your choice to accept money or not. No, if you are not able to put in the right person, you don't have the right to criticize that person. Right. So be actively involved, not just in going to vote, but in screening, in asking questions before the election day. Election does not start and end on the election day, even as a voter. It starts from you making your findings, getting information, asking questions. Who is this person? He probably has never crossed your mind. You can ask questions. You can get to know about that person. And then, even if someone says to you, you should vote this person, why not ask the question? I mean, there are situations where that will play out that you don't really know the candidates. So you can, at that point, why am I voting for this guy? Why do you say I should vote for this guy? The person convinces you, you say, okay, let me do my research. Let me go and see what he has done. And then, it's okay that person has convinced you. It's also okay that you have seen for yourself. Right. So let us stop this attitude of being pushed or cajoled to vote for people, even if you are not paid. I don't see it as right to go and vote for someone because someone told you the person is good. No, one way or the other it affects you. So know for yourself. Make a decision based on conviction. That's what I'm saying.
Quite interesting. You have to make your decision based on conviction. And again, that's where we get stuck sometimes. We realize that conviction is largely missing in our politicking, whether at the level of the politicians themselves or citizens. And the concern, I dare say the fear that even poverty itself is being weaponized against citizens in such a way that for somebody who has no idea what they're going to have for breakfast, let alone lunch and dinner, and then you dangle 10,000 at them. For a man, for example, with 2-3 children at home with a wife and all of that, what do you expect? That can probably, who knows, make a pot full of spag or something for them. That can cover one meal for the entire family, no matter how small it may be. So when people have to choose between whether to be, if you like, to be value-driven, value-oriented, and having to stay alive.
So how long would that?
I mean, somebody practically has to survive
first.
They practically have to fight for their lives to stay alive and see tomorrow, versus being value oriented. You can't have both at the same time. What do you do?
So you get the 10,000 naira and it takes you for 1 day, 2 days, because
they have to see the next day.
At the end of the elections, you don't get to see them again, right? But the ripple effects of whatever choice you make lives with you.
Yes.
So you can feed yourself today, but you now, that person brings in policies that affects the rest of your life. So which is better?
You see, that's where this conversation gets very interesting, because you see, the idea is not to even, it's supposed to be a rhetorical question to push us as a government, as institutions and policymakers into understanding that we must deal with poverty. We must address it, especially in a country where every now and then the African Development Bank, the World Bank, IMF, you know, they are all churning out very, if you like, nightmarish figures as to how the poverty brackets in Africa and in particular Nigeria continues to expand. Because the challenge is when you have people who are hungry, like practically hungry. You know, there are different kinds of hunger these days, I understand, because one former governor said he was hungry, even though it has now become a meme on social media. But I don't know what kind of hunger he's talking about. Maybe hunger for power, hunger for 2027, ambition and what have you. But we know for real, you know, without beating about the bush, that we have tens of millions of Nigerians who are practically hungry. When you have people like that, is it very convenient? How possible or otherwise is it for you to talk to them about going to vote and then voting right? We're saying that we can't keep complaining. It will be hypocritical, all right, to keep complaining about people selling or buying votes when we have not dealt with the factors responsible for them selling their votes, because your vote is your right, it's your franchise. I'll give you an example. So somebody once asked the question, what happens if you had a child in school whose grades are continually or persistently or consistently plummeting? Do you buy them more yogurt? Do you buy them more egg? Do you buy them more chocolate bars? No. You ask yourself, what could be wrong? Where is the broken link? Are they in the right school? Do they have the right materials for study? Are they being bullied in school? Do they need after-school teacher? Those are the questions you should be asking. Not saying, okay, well, maybe they are not eating healthy enough. Let's get them more protein and stuff like that. Protein, yes, important. But in this instant case, the concern should center around what exactly is wrong on the school front. That's to say that if government does not ask the right questions and provide answers accordingly, we will just be treating symptoms, not even treating, maybe bothered about symptoms. When in the real sense, as they say in the field of medical science, we should be getting to the root cause in such a way that we identify, first of all, what the problems are and then treat them. On a final note, a lecturer once told us in school, first year, that one of the clear indices that a nation is prospering or is on the path of growth, development and progress is when such a nation has, to a very large extent, has been able to conquer hunger. Yeah. So I put it to you now, has Nigeria conquered hunger?
Well, our leaders, are they interested with us?
Or are they also hungry?
In us conquering hunger, because it feels like hunger is a tool. It's a tool to win elections right now. So Nigerians, we have to get to that point where we do it ourselves, whether we like it or not. Right. That is the reality of the day. And really, power is in the hands of the people. One of the biggest problems and challenges that faces us as a nation and as a people is the lack of quality education. I'm not talking about going to the best schools. No, we need to have reforms, good reforms that would create thinkers, that would create problem solvers. We still have curriculums that promote, going to school and going to depend on someone else at the end of the day. No, I should go to school and solve problems. Right. That is where the liberation starts from. That is where poverty starts to drop. When I go to school and I still have to depend on you, then what problem have I solved? How have I enhanced my critical thinking?
What was the reason for going to school?
What was the reason for going to school in the first place? I don't need to go to school and help you, right? And most times we even have graduates that come out of school, and at the end of the day, they need to still learn on the job. So why did I go to school in the first place? So it starts from having good educational structures that will raise quality-minded Nigerians. If you are someone that is bent on getting a result, if you are someone that can solve your problems, trust me, nobody can go and dangle carrots to you and tell you, come and vote for me. Because you know that even without the jobs, I can eat.
Right.
Even without the jobs, I can go here, solve a problem, and I'll be rewarded. I don't need to fear. I don't need to have a fear of tomorrow because I know I have the solution of tomorrow.
Right.
So I don't. There's nothing to scare. There's nothing to scare me about poverty. So we need basic reform in our education. We need. And I feel like all those things are deliberate. But like I established, Nigerians need to take the bull by the horn. We're not waiting for politicians to redeem us again, because it will never happen. We have to do it ourselves. Whatever it is that you have for configured in your minds, just know that poverty is something that can be dealt with on an individual level. Basically.
Interesting. Well, this is where we'll take a quick break now, everyone. We'll be wrapping up our special coverage distant time, but until then, we'll continue to enlighten you as to what's happening on the ground. Of course, you can bet on it that Global Television will bring you all of the stories in the course of our news broadcast all the way into tomorrow. Please do stay with us.
We're currently here at the polling unit 013 at Asokoro, just a very short distance away from ECOWAS Commission Secretariat here in Abuja. We saw and noticed at exactly 8:21 a.m. electoral materials arrived with INEC officials, and we are accompanied by some security personnel who are here to ensure that everything transpired swiftly as Abuja decides. So we'll give you developing stories as the electoral process is underway. However, situations was different at polling unit 020 in Nyanya Federal Housing, where voters turnout was described as massive early as at 6 a.m., but election materials were yet to arrive as at 10 a.m. Frustrated but patient voters waited on the trees, calling on electoral officials to expedite deployment to avoid disenfranchisement.
As you can see, this is Federal Housing. This is polling unit 020, and if as you can see now, this is getting to 10 o'clock now. Up till now, we have not seen our election materials up till now, and other places have started voting now. They are doing accreditation and all of that, but up till now, the whole Federal Housing, as you can see now, there is no election materials, nothing. I'm just coming from the collation center, and in Nyanya, 95% of them now have left the collation center, so we don't know what is going on. And look at time now, and according to the INEC, by now our election materials are supposed to be in the polling units up till now, so we don't know what is going on, Nigerians. So this is what is happening.
We're here since 6 o'clock, and so we are told the election is starting by 8:30. So up till now, we haven't seen anything, and there is no any update as it is now. We are just waiting for INEC officials.
Some voters expressed concerns that delays could damper morale if not urgently addressed, while others maintained confidence that the process would stabilize as the day progressed. Electoral observers say the contest in
Logistics highlights the need for improved coordinations to ensure uniform commencement across polling units. As voting continues across the area councils, residents are hopeful for a peaceful and credible exercise, while attention now turns to how quickly delayed polling units will be supplied to generate full participation in the democratic process. Samuel Odi for
Speaking after casting his vote at voting unit 02 in Gariki, the minister expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the process.
The INEC, they are all here and they are all over the six area council, and they are conducting an election free and fair, no hints. And I believe the security agents are also doing their job. I can see the atmosphere is very calm, everything is going well.
He commended the Independent National Electoral Commission for the timely deployment of electoral materials and personnel, noting that voter turnout was encouraging.
And the people of Abuja Municipal Council will smile because I believe they are voting the candidate of their choice. And I believe that people are doing their rightful voting. Very good one that people want to realize the winner of the election.
Right Honorable Jalasu also praised security agencies for maintaining order and ensuring a safe environment for residents to exercise their civic responsibility. He urged eligible voters who are yet to cast their ballots to take advantage of the peaceful atmosphere and participate in the democratic process. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
So far, questions I've asked
about the assessment. You've gone around some polling units in Wari. What would you say about it?
Well, to the best of my knowledge and what I have seen so far, the conduct of the election has been peaceful. I have touched, this will be my 6th or 7th polling unit on this stretch alone. I've gone around other locations even before I got to Kwari Area Council. And I think that the conduct is peaceful so far. Questions I've asked the electoral officers include questions like how, whether the place is peaceful, whether they are facing any form of harassment, and they've responded to the fact that there hasn't been any harassment. Police officers there, the electoral officers are saying that security agents are conducting themselves in a very permit me to use the word professional manner. They have also told me, I've asked the citizens, the voters themselves, and they are saying they are not being harassed or cajoled into voting parties that are not of their that they are not willing to vote for. What I'm just saying here is that so far I think the conduct has been peaceful, well coordinated, security men carrying out their responsibilities the way they should. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
When we were discussing, what are you doing?
I'm only aware that there was one journalist that was arrested, and immediately we intervened. The CPS actually had to send some people to spoke to the police, and the same person speaking to me was immediately released, unmolested. So identification, but we have taken every step, every measure to ensure that nobody is molested. Accredited journalists are not molested, accredited observers are not molested, and they are granted access to places they are supposed to. We have not withdrawn any agreement. So far, everything is going on.
Sir, analysts are leading to 2027. What should Nigerians expect? What are you telling Nigerians? What confidence, are you providing? for Nigerians to believe in the administration and the process so far?
Well, I have talked about the beavers. The beavers works very well to guarantee the integrity of the whole system. So, if you are not accredited, when you are accredited, you can pass your votes. And beavers working effectively.
So there are areas that we have.
There are other polling units within the FCT, and you are getting updates on this area. What are those reports you are getting from them, and what is your message to Nigeria?
Very good reports from all the polling units. The atmosphere is very calm in all the polling units. The only area we had problem was in Abaji. And immediately we deployed security, and the ugly incident was tamed, and so voting has resumed.
So there are areas that complain of logistics, no table, no chairs. What is your response?
All those areas have been addressed.
So it really affect the voting timing because of the late arrival of materials.
Materials did not arrive in only negligible number of villages. So hopefully it's going to be sorted out. The majority of the polling units, if I was not 99%, the beavers are concerned. Very satisfied because the beavers have worked effectively and efficiently. And
Your phone. Mommy phone. Carry your phone to us. Mommy phone in the movie by here.
Phone you want camera turnout.
Phone you want camera.
That a lot of people are becoming aware. I see a lot of people here and they are conducting themselves well. I learned that there are 30 security personnel that previously they are also conducting themselves in another level. So we hope by the close of the poll we have a very successful election.
So this is a litmus test.
Yes.
Introduce us to local government election and 6 elections. What we have state of assembly, we have more senators and during the election. How do we handle this now? First of all, the electoral resources materials came very late.
Yeah.
Yes, it came around 8:39, and there was no logistics for them, like chairs. So we overlooked it, but we're looking at the mass of the next election coming. And this material is supposed to come a day. Go with one side. All this, look at we have almost 6 police. Why can't they put the canopy at almost 12 hours? Why can't they put the canopy in the morning and let an officer stay there till today? It saves them of the chairs than coming early morning, releasing material, and they can release materials even in the night. Early morning at 2 o'clock, and the police officer will carry them and stay till morning. And the polling unit that come in the morning and stay till 2.
We don't release materials to the polling unit overnight. The night before the election, in fact, the day before the election is when the rack is activated. So before now, we don't even activate until the day of the election. But we have even improved by ensuring that the rack is activated a day before the election. And so, meaning that everybody must be present at the rack. And when I talk about the rack, I'm talking about the registration area. Yes. So you have the police, you have the transport, you have the full officials, you have all the materials, sensitive materials, and non-sensitive materials, so that they are supposed to be moving to the polling unit as early as 6 o'clock.
Yes, because
so if we set up at the polling unit, it's not you can't guarantee that these materials will not be.
Yes, sir, I want to add something, sir. Like what happened today. What I want to add is number one, the advocacy of voters.
Yes.
There's voter apathy, which we as agents and others were not really happy. I feel the electoral INEC has a lot to do with the awareness, even online, and do it like a week. People don't come and do election. We cannot be having 20 votes, and people want to put their vote to choose a leader. So these are things we have to do.
But we are still working on that.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
It's not the correct statistic. Like here, you have over 50 that are.
These are our more than the area.
It's okay. Yeah.
Just wait, no stress. So we have to take the process. Yes. But by and large, I think 90 percentage. It's 98%. And the best will go before 10. That's before 10 a.m. You know, once you get to 10 a.m., it's less. So I'm working that 98%. Yes, before 10 a.m. When I called you, it was 2 minutes to 10. So we had 98%. So it's fantastic. So I'm working the record.
Yes.
About 1,262 polling owned by 1,262.
Okay.
While 1,557 opened by 10.
Out of 1,000, out of 2,000.
After 2,000, the percentage is 98% overall. So, which is fantastic. Yes, as of 10 o'clock, 98%. 98%. Which is actually very good. By every standard. Almost 7 minutes.
Okay, what about Mark? What is percentage?
No, this is general. So all of them perform very well. Even the areas we are thinking that we perform quite well, even with the distance, they use KK to meet up with the logistics.
What of the riverine areas?
That's no problem. They were all accessible. Good to
go right. So where and where are we?
I'm not over my salary. Good to see you. I didn't recognize you. Correct. That's good.
Let's just go.
Everything is
We're beginning to wrap it up here in our live studios of Global Television in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, on this special occasion where we are covering the FCT Area Council elections. It's been quite an interesting day, no doubt about that. We've heard several sides to the story, especially since we have a good number of our correspondents on the ground looking at exactly what's been happening, covering the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor George Amupiton, as well as the Commissioner of Police, who himself has, according to what he said in the course of one of those engagements, saying he had been to quite a number of polling units, of course, across several, area councils, just to have first-hand feel of what's going on, where he also asked questions around possible inducements or vote buying, and then issues around harassment and violence. And largely, the report has been very positive, where we are told that there hasn't been any anomaly regarding this whole exercise. The only concern, however, borders squarely on low voter turnout, which unfortunately has been a consistent phenomenon in our electioneering process for quite a number of years now. But we hope this will mark an end to it. So starting from 2027 general election, we should begin to see the curve returning back up, because if we continue this nosedive, it means that we'll have to question whether or not all of the investments were made in our electioneering, is quite worth it. We're joined by one of our correspondents now, who have been on the ground for us, following up with these all-important electoral events. Aniatia Patrick, would like to say a big thank you to you. Second time around in the studio today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for what you have been doing. Well done. How's it going, please?
Well, so far so good. It's not different from what we're anticipating. The election is taking a toll in the sense that INEC chairman, Professor Joshua Mopiton, this is actually one of the exercises to test run his administration to see how he's going to put things to work ahead of 2027.
Right.
And we actually had to go with him because he had to pay an assessment visit to some of the polling units to see how the process is and get updates from the ad hoc staff at the polling units. But he first took off from the FCT INEC office and then went to meet the REC, and the REC briefed him to say this is what we have on ground, these are the issues we had, in terms of mobility, in terms of logistics for the electoral materials, most sensitive materials were supposed to be moved to the polling units. And then he was told this was the challenges they had. And then we also moved from that particular office and went straight to polling unit 16 at area 8, flat 1 by Mohammed Buhari Way, where we saw, fortunately we got where a voter was there being captured by the beavers, and then it was seamless, everything went well, and he was able to cast his vote. And then the chairman asked the questions if they had challenges. And apparently we met a party agent who also spoke to the INEC chairman, expressing some concerns about the fact that materials got in late. And then that also took a toll on the voters, which we couldn't have enough because we saw voter apathy across some of the polling units around the area 2 in Garki, because we moved from that area 8. Right. And then he also talked about that one from that area 8 and talked about how voters could not really come out, or those who came out also left at some point because materials were not on ground for them to cast their votes. And then across area 2, we also have around the National Library area where we saw quite ad hoc staff just sitting down, doing nothing, waiting for voters to come. Apparently in that same area, in the area 2, they also had where we had a registered voter, we had a voter register that had over 2,120, so there are about registered voters. But apparently as at 12:30, where we're around that vicinity, only 50 voters had come to vote. That's to tell you the way the voter apathy is actually affected, and concerns were raised probably because that wasn't more of a residential area, it was more of a commercial area, which probably would have had its own concern to that. But one thing the INEC chairman made very known was the fact that he's comfortable with the fact that the beavers has worked perfectly well. We didn't really have issue from the reports he got from the staff, the ad hoc staff, and also the overseeing supervising electoral officers who were also monitoring to see what was happening. Those are the issues he got. But another win that came, because we had to ask him, would there be an extension of time for voters? Because looking at the fact that materials arrived quite late, would there be an extension? Because that's normal practice. When you see that across sensitive areas, he couldn't get voters to vote. He said they're still monitoring and they're keeping.
But just to mention, I mean, for the the interest of our viewers, that the INEC guidelines allow for that under such a peculiar circumstance.
If it's actually around the major areas where you see these challenges play out. But he said they're still monitoring. But so far so good. People are still voting, and they were still in line with the time frame with the electoral act that says or speaks to this issue. So one of the issues he also raised the fact that they had concerns in Abaji. Abaji had a bit of tension where we got a win that ballot box was snatched at some polling units, and there was a bit of tension. But the security operatives took charge, and from the INEC chairman, he said the security operatives took charge and went there and were able to manage the situation there in Abaji. Because don't forget, we also had where we raised the issue with INEC chairman asking about hotspots, flashpoints where were raised by observers to say what will happen if these things come up, and the commissioner of police in the FCT had said, given assurance that they will take charge, and truly that was really when that's what the chairman told us they did, in line with the fact that they had tension across Abaji.
Okay, two things. I see rumors on social media. I don't know how authentic. Some polling units were changed at dying minutes. How true is this? And then I also see that some wrong beaverses were taken to polling units. How true is that? Okay, so
I won't speak if it's true or not, because the truth is we had logistics issues at some polling units where the ad hoc staff probably missed the drops, or where the vehicles were supposed to convey them took them to places that were not theirs. But in the long run, I think they were arranging those things and getting that, because I saw voters.
Just to sorry to interrupt. Those could have been human error, right?
Yes, those could have. It wasn't like a deliberate thing. There's no way we have mixed up those things, because these things were properly put together. Because I know at the RAC Center, where I was in Dugbe earlier, when I joined you earlier in the morning, I spoke at the fact that the RAC Center was still there, having ad hoc staff being conveyed to the polling units. And I know one of the ad hoc staff actually approached me. I was asking to say she couldn't find her cubicle stand where they gave her. So I'm sure in the process of packing, some of them would have probably mixed up these things. This could be human errors. So I'm sure that would have been, because they have the electoral officers who they reach out to when they have the supervising officer in that polling unit or that particular RAC Center who supervises the ad hoc staff, that's the EO1 and also the SPO, to tell them what to do. So that could have been human error and would have been fixed.
How about situations of changing polling units dying minutes?
No, I don't think that's done at the instant. It's not done. You can't do that at the instant to immediately change a polling unit, because this you have voter register.
I saw it on the internet due to the whole lack of movement. I don't know.
No, that's not. I've covered elections over time, and I don't see that being realistic, because this election, from the rec yesterday before the election today, he spoke about the fact that some centers had the register pasted on the wall 3 days ahead of time for people to be able to check for their names and know their centers.
So do I leave my house 3 days to go?
Because if you are interested in getting your leaders elected and you want to vote,
so it's part of your commitment.
It's part of commitment.
I personally got a text from INEC saying that my polling unit had been changed, and it happened yesterday. I mean, I can't be going to polling units to go and check my name.
But you were told yesterday before today.
Yesterday before.
So you had enough notice.
You had 24 hours notice. So let's. I'm not trying to be their devil's advocate, but I'm saying in terms of logistical plan and all that, they've put in what they can do.
So what happens to 1 week before? Is it impossible?
Let's look at the electoral process. There are a lot of things. I'm not speaking for INEC right now. I'm speaking as far that you look at, for instance, in your workspace, you have planning. You have things you put in order to do things. So it's not because you're trying to save unforeseen circumstances. That's why you put in some measures, even before the dying minutes of time. That's why you got that text to say, check this. We all have our responsibility. And don't forget that electoral process or democracy is a multi-stakeholder thing. We all are involved in this. It is not, yes, INEC is not an independent National Electoral Commission, but it's a multi-stakeholder process that involves everybody, as media professionals, as civil society group, as the security experts. It is all collective, because it is for the dividends of democracy for Nigerians as a people. So if you got that, I know you're busy, but tell me the day is going to collect 300 of naira somewhere, you will not leave what you're doing to go and get it. You will do that.
Of course, that's different.
But I think enforcement, say that's different.
So where your treasure is, there will your heart be.
So it really depends. You know, democracy is something we are still trying to fight for, right? We hope it gets better, but somehow a lot of Nigerians are still, I don't think this will work. We're still hopeful. It's not a situation of, if you tell me to go collect millions of naira the next day, I know that it's certain. I'll definitely go. But democracy is faith at this point in Nigeria. So we need to be realistic with the expectations from Nigerians. Because,
hold on. So I'm trying to interrupt you right now.
Okay.
Now you're saying democracy is this. How, at what point do you think we as a people will need to change the narrative of things? Because the change begins with you as a person.
Yes.
If you don't get right at the own end, how will the other person or the agencies, you are also at their neck, fixing them to say, give us this thing, get it right. Because these things are human beings operating these things. Even though we've introduced technologies to also assist in getting this process done. But it starts with you.
You don't think it's lowering standards in any way as a nation? People representing us, you know.
Let me give you instance. Other countries who conduct elections, even the US that we also want to look at too, they have their little challenges here and there. Because they don't spread out like we always put ours there, doesn't mean they don't have challenges. But it is, and don't forget that our time frame of in terms of independence and all that is quite different. It's a long time. It took them time to build those processes and all, or those systems. Nigeria is also building to those systems. And don't forget that this is 2026. We compare our elections from 2015 till now. We've had some changes, some improvements. We are climbing, and where we see something, we are correcting and trying to get there until we change our mindset and drop the bias mindset. Because right now, voter apathy is a major concern.
Yes.
If we have this in area council elections in Abuja today, what happens in 2027? What will happen in off-cycle elections?
Right.
Until we start speaking to ourselves and want this thing to change before these electoral commissioners, or what's it called, the commissioner in charge of elections, who also, they are also doing their best. They're also putting themselves out because they can't be the ones to produce the things and also take it by themselves alone. So the PUs, they need the South Union people to also work with them, which is what they did. They partnered with those people to see, and don't forget, delay of materials to get, there's also a logistical problem that has to do movement. Because like I got to the rack center, I saw vehicles parked and queued up to carry people out, and they had to sort out things and go. And don't forget, guys, some of them stayed overnight at the rack center.
So it's not possible to have these things in their various polling units before.
So if I keep beavers in a polling unit and something goes wrong, you tell me there was a manipulation. They had this figure, or what's the right word now? Configure.
Yeah, they reconfigured it.
They reconfigured it. So those are things that you also need to look at. That's why I said the electoral process has its own stages of things and implementation.
Hey, if there's anything I've understood so far from all of the reporting, especially the ones that our team have done, you and the rest of the guys, amazing work, is that there's still a lot of gap that we have to cover.
Yeah.
So the more we conduct elections, the more we're able to, identify those gaps, right? But I want us to talk about the Electoral Act, and it's a beautiful thing that you cover the National Assembly, right? Of course, Clause 63 has been a big conversation. So I want us to now look at in what ways, from what you have observed today, I mean, you spent a couple of hours on the field. In what ways would you say you have observed this electoral law has, kicked into gear right now? Is this still same old, or as they say, business as usual? Or would you say in some specific ways, the Electoral Act as signed into law just a few days ago by the president is now shaping and reshaping the electoral process?
Well, I think if we want to put that, let's look at same election process, because like I said, it's a process.
Right.
We have where PUs need to open on time at 8 a.m. For voters to come in and do the registration and also accreditation at the same time. It's a simultaneous process and vote.
Right.
That still went well. The challenge we have is the logistical issue of arrival of materials, which is also part of what we're supposed to do. Which is, let's look at the
early preparation.
Preparations also used to have. But the clause 60 that we're talking about has to do with the RF portal, the INEC RF portal, which is we are yet to get to that step right now. Because election process, what's the time right now? As at 2:30, it's almost 2 p.m. So 2:30 voting, counting starts. Begins, the collation of which I'm going to get back to the field. Collation starts, and what is needed is the fact that the collation that is done at that particular PU is uploaded on the INEC RF portal, which is part of the issues they raise. So it's electronically monitored, because don't forget we have centers where people are also monitoring from the observer groups. We also have the INEC office themselves. Political parties also have their own monitoring system to also see how it's going on the RF portal. So that's where that clause 60 will also come to play. So while we monitor to see how they're going to conclude at the polling units to see how this goes out, from the collation, we'll see where that clause 60 in the Amendments Act, which was signed into law by the president, begins to take implementation process also, and we'll see how smooth it is.
The clause 60 says, in a situation where you are not able to upload, is it unable to upload or having network difficulties or difficulty whatsoever, use
the from EC88.
So does it mean that does this in any way mean that there won't be a situation of still snapping and sending to the portal? Because we had one of the election experts come on the show this morning, and he says somehow it's not really correlating, right? So you don't need network per se to upload whatever or snap and start the process of upload. You can snap, go to a place that has network, and it begins to upload. So the clause is still really funny at this point.
So it has been passed that it should be electronic transmission of results, but the truth is, while we're doing that, for me, I think it's safe to also have that from ECA on the standby, which is also goes side and side with whatever you're uploading.
So that's the hybrid process.
So for my understanding of that's how that should play. It doesn't stop you from still uploading.
Exactly.
But that's you having it. So
what are we
using physical?
What are we using it to do eventually?
For instance, when you're still snapping, you have the booklet. You have everything. What are you snapping? It's not from ECA. You're snapping.
Exactly.
So if you're snapping, don't you have it as a backup copy to also reflect the fact that this is what you snapped and uploaded that was collated at the PU center, and then you see the result of the PU in the RF portal.
So it has to tally.
It has to tally because the only challenge where people are making issues is the fact that they saw you taking the pictures, they saw you uploading. Probably they mentioned the fact that when they get to the digital collation center, which is the rack where they collate results, they now see a different thing on the RF. That's where that issue always comes from. But if you have exact thing that is in the form EC88 and same thing on your RF, why would you have issues of concern? Because you have PUs across the area councils, and you always get results from each of the polling units as it goes, so you'll be able to see the results from the different polling units, which will reflect on the RF portal. But that doesn't stop you from having what you snapped as your major point of evidence, which is that's why the Senate had said it was not mandatory. Because in that scenario where you already have what you snapped, that's the copy of what the results sheet looks like, which is going to be uploaded on the RF. So it's still the same thing, but Nigerians wanted where everybody can see it at the same time.
All in real time.
All real time, at the same time. So that real time was what they tried to do. They didn't want that real time spelled out. They just said electronic transmission of the results.
Interesting. Anita, we appreciate your energy and all of the very incisive insight that you've been sharing with us here on this special coverage of the FCT Area Council election. This is where we're closing our live studios at this point, but as always, Global Television will continue to follow this election for you. Like Nate just highlighted a while ago, counting of these results will begin at 2:30. That's in about a half-hour time. And then the rest, as they say, will follow. But we hope the best man wins. And this is the point at which we want to say big thank you to all of those who have joined us today to lend their voice to it, starting with James Ugochukwu, election observation expert who doubles as good governance advocate. He was here in the studio for about 1.5 hours. And we also want to especially thank our news crews, led by Anita Patrick, who is as well our National Assembly correspondent, for helping us understand what's going on the ground, whether it was real time, online or not, but at least they brought us all of the graphical description of what exactly is happening on the ground. So we're able to understand where this poll is heading, and we appreciate the fact that it's been largely peaceful. I also want to say a big thank you to all of those who have watched today. Thank you for being a part of this special coverage. On behalf of my colleague Priscilla Obasi and I will say thank you for watching and continue to stay with Global Television.